The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Yoon Sarah stepped onto Station Vara 7 for the first time. She carried only a small bag over her shoulder. Her clothes were simple. Dark pants, a gray jacket, nothing fancy. She looked like someone who had come to fix the plumbing, not someone applying to the most respected combat academy in the known galaxy around her. Dozens of alien species moved through the station's massive arrival hall. Some had scales. Others had too many eyes or not enough limbs. A few floated instead of walking. Sarah had read about all of them during her journey, but seeing them in person was something else entirely. She was 34 years old. Average height for a human woman. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and her face carried the calm expression of someone who had learned long ago that showing emotions was optional. If you look closely, you might notice small scars on her hands. Old ones. The kind that told stories she never shared. The Galactic Coalition had opened its doors to humanity only 5 years ago. Earth was still considered a newcomer. A young species taking its first steps into a universe that had been trading, fighting, and making peace for thousands of years, before humans learned to make fire. Sarah followed the signs toward the Academy Registration Center. Other candidates walked the same path. A massive creature covered in thick gray hide stomped ahead of her. Behind her, 2 tall insectoid beings clicked and whistled to each other in their own language. None of them looked at her. To them, she was not worth noticing. The registration hall was a long room with high ceilings and cold lighting. Behind the main desk sat a Kethari named Instructor Vriss. His species resembled Earth's praying mantis, but much larger. His head turned as Sarah approached, compound eyes reflecting her image 100 times over. "Name and species," he said. His voice was flat, bored. "Yoon Sarah, human, Earth." Vriss made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Ah, yes, the human candidate." He said the word human the way someone might say insect or bacteria. "Earth's first attempt at the Peacekeeper program. How?" "Ambitious." Sarah did not react. She simply waited. Vriss gestured toward a scanning platform nearby. "Step onto the biometric reader." Standard procedure. She did as instructed. The machine hummed to life, blue light washing over her from head to toe. Numbers and symbols appeared on Vriss's screen. He watched them with the casual disinterest of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Then he stopped. His head tilted. The symbols on his screen were changing rapidly, flashing between colors. "What is this?" he muttered, tapping the controls. The machine beeped twice. An error sound. "Is there a problem?" Sarah asked. Her voice was polite, patient. "The scanner is giving inconsistent readings," Vriss said, annoyance creeping into his tone. "Your muscle density appears wrong. Your bone structure is flagging anomalies. The system cannot determine." He stopped himself and made a dismissive gesture with one of his long arms. "Equipment malfunction. We will have maintenance look at it later." He handed her a small device. "This is your Academy identifier. You are assigned to Cohort 17, Dormitory Block 3, Room 12. Orientation begins in 2 hours." Sarah took the device and nodded once. "Thank you." As she walked away, Vriss watched her go. Something about the way she moved bothered him, though he could not say what. It was too smooth, too controlled, like every step was calculated. He shook his head and called for the next candidate. Probably nothing. The dormitory was functional but not comfortable. 12 beds arranged in 2 rows. Sarah found her assigned spot and set down her bag. The other candidates were already there, talking among themselves, sizing each other up. They came from warrior species. The Deshans were known for their forearms and centuries of military tradition. The Vorn were reptilian giants who had once conquered half a star system through pure physical dominance. The Drell were fast, agile, built for quick kills. Each species here had a reputation, a history of strength. And then there was the human. A Theshan named Korax approached her. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his forearms crossed over his broad chest. "You are the Earth creature?" "Yes," Sira said. "I have studied your planet. You have no natural weapons. No claws, no venom. Your skin tears easily. Your bones break." He leaned closer. "Why are you here?" Sira looked up at him. She had to crane her neck to meet his eyes. "We survive," she said simply. Korax stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. A deep, rumbling sound. "Survive? Little creature, this academy has broken warriors from species that have been fighting since before your kind climbed down from trees. You will not last a single day." He walked away, still laughing. Others joined in. The Vorn, the Drell, even the smaller species, found humor in the situation. Sira sat on her bed and began unpacking her bag. She did not argue. She did not defend herself. She simply listened and remembered every voice, every face, every laugh. 2 hours later, the cohort gathered in a large briefing room. A senior instructor explained what awaited them. Training that would push them beyond their limits. Tests designed to break the weak. Those who failed would be sent home in shame. "Your first assessment will take place tomorrow," the instructor announced. "You will face Academy Master Torek in live combat." A murmur ran through the room. Even Korax looked uneasy. Master Torek was a legend. A Vorn warrior who had never been defeated in 300 years of service. Candidates did not beat Torek. The best they could hope for was to impress him before he put them on the ground. "Each of you must last 30 seconds against him," the instructor continued. "Those who fail will leave the academy immediately. There are no second chances." The room fell silent. 30 seconds against Torek might as well be 30 years. Sira listened with the same calm expression she had worn since arriving. While others whispered nervously, she simply sat still, breathing slowly, her hands folded in her lap. Tomorrow would be interesting. That night she lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. Around her, the other candidates tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Fear kept them awake. Doubt filled their minds. Sira closed her eyes and slept peacefully. She had faced worse things than a Vorn with a blade. Much worse. The galaxy did not know what Earth had forged in its long, bloody history. The Coalition thought humans were soft because they smiled easily and spoke of peace. They were about to learn the truth, and it would begin tomorrow. The central arena was massive, built to hold thousands. Stone seats rose in circles around a sand-covered floor where countless warriors had tested themselves over the centuries. Today, those seats were filled with instructors, senior officers, and visiting dignitaries from across the Coalition. Everyone wanted to see the new candidates, especially the human word had spread quickly through the station. Earth had sent someone to try the Peacekeeper program. Most thought it was a joke, a political gesture. No one actually expected the human to accomplish anything meaningful. Cohort 17 stood in a row at the arena's edge. 12 candidates, 11 warriors from respected species, and Sira, who stood at the end of the line with her hands behind her back, watching everything with quiet attention. Academy Master Torek entered from the opposite side. The crowd fell silent. He was enormous. Even by Vorn standards, Torek was exceptional. His scales were dark green, almost black. His arms were thick as tree trunks. A long tail swept behind him, powerful enough to shatter bone. He carried a ceremonial blade that most species would need 2 hands to lift. He held it in 300 years of combat, no defeats. That was his record. Candidates. Tarek's voice boomed across the arena. Today you face your first test. Each of you will stand against me in single combat. Your goal is simple. Survive 30 seconds. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. No candidate has ever achieved this on their first day. But you are welcome to try. The first candidate stepped forward. A Drell named Civix. Fast. Agile. His species was known for quick movements and precise strikes. He took a fighting stance and waited. To RAK. Move. It was over in 8 seconds. Civix was on his back, gasping for air. Tarek's blade pressed lightly against his throat. 8 seconds, Tarek announced. Next. One by one, the candidates stepped forward. One by one, they fell. The Voron lasted longest among the first group. 14 seconds. Still far from the goal. Korax was the best performer. The four-armed Deshin used every advantage his body gave him. He blocked, dodged, and even managed to push Tarek back for a moment. 22 seconds before the master swept his legs and put him down. 22 seconds, Tarek said. Impressive. You have potential. Korax rose, breathing hard but proud. 22 seconds was an achievement worth celebrating. Then the arena fell quiet again. Only one candidate remained. Sarah stepped forward. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Some laughed. Others shook their heads. This would not take long. The human, Tarek said. He walked toward her slowly, examining her the way a predator might study an unfamiliar animal. You are smaller than I expected. I hear that often, Sarah replied. Tarek gestured toward the weapon rack nearby. Choose your blade. I will give you that much advantage. Sarah looked at the weapons. Swords of various sizes. Staffs. Blades designed for species with more arms than she had. She studied them for a moment. Then she turned back to Tarek. No thank you, she said. I prefer to go without. The crowd went silent. Even Tarek paused. You wish to face me unarmed? If that is acceptable. Tarek's eyes narrowed. He was not sure if this was confidence or stupidity. Perhaps both. Very well. Your choice. He raised his blade. The match was about to begin. Then something strange happened. A loud beeping filled the arena. On the wall behind the spectators, a massive display screen flickered to life. It was the arena's combat scanner, an ancient system designed to analyze fighters and predict outcomes. It had been installed centuries ago and was rarely noticed anymore, but now it was flashing red. Bright, urgent red dot words appeared on the screen that no one had ever seen before. Threat assessment. Do not engage. The arena erupted in confused noise. Instructors stood from their seats. Technicians rushed to their stations, checking equipment. This had never happened. In 300 years of operation, the scanner had never issued such a warning. Instructor Vriss shouted from the observation deck. What is happening? Is the system malfunctioning? A technician called back. All systems are functioning normally. The reading is accurate. Tarek stood frozen, his blade still raised. He stared. At the screen, then back at the small human woman standing calmly before him. She had not moved. Her hands were at her sides. Her expression had not changed. This is impossible, someone in the crowd said. She is just a human. The scanner pulsed red again. Do not engage. For the first time in perhaps a century, doubt flickered across Tarek's face. His instincts, honed over 300 years, were telling him something his mind could not accept. Something about this creature was wrong. Or perhaps something about her was very, very right. Master Tarek, an official called out. Perhaps we should postpone until we understand what is happening. Tarek looked at Sarah. Do you wish to postpone? She shook her head slowly. No. Then we continue. Tarek's grip tightened on his blade. He had never retreated from any challenge. He would not start today because of a malfunctioning machine. That was what he told himself, anyway. The crowd held its breath. The warning continued to flash. Do not engage. Do not engage. Sierra took a single deep breath. Her weight shifted slightly. A small adjustment that meant nothing to most observers. But Torek saw it. And somewhere deep inside, in the ancient part of his brain that remembered what it meant to be prey, something whispered a warning. He attacked anyway. His blade swept toward her neck, full speed, no holding back. If this human wanted to face him unarmed, she would learn what that meant. The blade cut through the air with a sound, like tearing silk, and stopped. Sarah's hands had moved faster than the eye could follow. She caught the blade between her palms, stopping it completely. Metal pressed into flesh. Blood ran down her wrists, dripping onto the sand below. She did not flinch. She did not blink. She looked directly into Torek's eyes, and she spoke one word. Proceed. The arena was utterly silent. Even the warning had stopped flashing, as if the scanner itself was waiting to see what would happen next. Torek stared at the human woman, at her bleeding hands, at her calm face, at eyes that held absolutely no fear. And for the first time in 300 years, he felt something he thought he had forgotten. He felt afraid. Blood dripped onto the sand. Slow, steady. The sound was unnaturally loud in the silent arena. Sarah still held the blade between her palms. The edge had cut deep into her flesh. Any normal person would be screaming. Any normal person would have let go. But she was not a normal person. She never had been. I said proceed, she repeated calmly. Torek yanked his blade back with all his strength. Any other opponent would have been pulled forward, off balance, easy to finish. Sarah simply opened her hands and let the weapon go. She did not stumble. She did not even shift her weight. The Vorn master stepped back, putting distance between them. His mind was racing. 300 years of combat experience. Thousands of opponents. He had never seen anything like this. The scanner on the wall began cycling through warning codes. Red, yellow, red again. Numbers and symbols flashing too fast for anyone to read. It was as if the system itself was panicking. What are you? Torek demanded. Sarah flexed her bleeding hands. The wounds were bad. They would need treatment. But not yet. I am human, she said. That is all. She moved. It was not an attack. Not exactly. She simply closed the distance between them in the space of a heartbeat. One moment she was 3 meters away. The next she was inside his guard, too close for him to swing his blade effectively. Torek reacted on instinct. His free hand swept toward her head. A strike that had shattered skulls of a dozen species. Sarah ducked beneath it. Her body twisted, her foot hooked behind his ankle. She pushed out. The great Torek stumbled. Not a fall, just a stumble. But it was enough. The crowd gasped. No one had made Torek stumble in decades. He recovered instantly, spinning with his blade extended. The attack should have carved her in half. But she was not there anymore. She had moved again, circling behind him, staying just outside his reach. You are faster than you should be, Torek growled. I trained on a heavy world, Sarah replied. Earth gravity is strong. Our bodies are dense. We do not look like much, but we are built to endure. She was not boasting, just explaining. Like a teacher giving a lesson, Torek attacked again. A flurry of strikes that would have overwhelmed any candidate in the cohort. Each blow was precise, powerful, deadly. Sarah did not block. She did not need to. She simply was not there when the blade arrived. Every strike missed by centimeters. She flowed around his attacks like water around stone. 20 seconds had passed. Time. Someone in the crowd called out. She has made time. But neither fighter stopped. This had become something more than an assessment. This was a matter of pride now, of understanding. Tarek feinted left and struck right, a move that had caught hundreds of opponents. Sira read it instantly. She stepped into the feint, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. The blade fell from his grip. It clattered onto the sand. The arena went completely still. Master Tarek had been disarmed. By a human. By an unarmed human. 30 seconds passed. Then 35-40. Sira could have pressed her advantage. She could have struck him while he was stunned. Instead, she simply stepped back and waited. "Your blade," she said, gesturing toward the weapon on the ground. Tarek stared at her. His chest heaved with heavy breathing, confusion, anger, respect, all of it mixed together on his ancient face. He picked up his blade slowly. When he rose, something had changed in his eyes. The predator was still there, but now it was looking at an equal. "Again," he said. They fought for another minute. Then two. The crowd watched in complete silence. This was not a beating. This was not a demonstration of dominance. This was a dance. Two warriors testing each other, learning each other, pushing each other. Sira took hits. Glancing blows that left bruises. A cut across her arm that added to the blood already staining her clothes. But she kept moving, kept adapting. Every time Tarek thought he had figured out her pattern, she changed it. Finally, Tarek raised his hand. Enough. They both stopped. Tarek was breathing hard. Harder than he had in years. Sira was calm, controlled. Only her wounds showed any sign of the battle. "You did not try to hurt me," Tarek said. It was not a question. "No," Sira agreed. "I was here to pass the assessment, not to fight. You could have fought. You could have done more than defend." Sira nodded slowly. "Yes, but that was not necessary." The Vorn Master studied her for a long moment. Then he did something that stunned everyone in the arena. He bowed. A deep, formal bow of respect. "I have lived 300 years, he said. "I thought I understood combat. I thought I understood strength." He straightened and met her eyes. "You have taught me that I still have much to learn." Sira returned the bow. "You are faster than I expected." It was an honor. She offered him her hand. The human gesture of respect. Her palm was still bleeding, still wounded. She offered it anyway. Tarek took it. His massive scaled hand wrapped gently around her small human one. In the observation gallery above, a woman watched with intense focus. Director Veth of Coalition Intelligence. Her species, the Miraki, had 6 eyes, and all of them were fixed on the human woman below. She activated her personal communicator. "Get me the human's full file. Not the public one. The classified one." A pause. Then her aide's voice came back. "Director, that file is restricted. It requires authorization from Earth's military council. Then get the authorization. This is priority 1. She watched Sira bow once more to the crowd before walking calmly toward the medical station. The human moved without hurry, without pride, as if what she had just done was nothing special. But Director Veth had access to more information than most. She had seen Earth's history files. The wars, the survival, the things that species did to each other and to their world. Humans did not look like predators. They smiled too easily. They spoke of peace too often. They seemed soft and friendly and harmless. That was the mask. Behind it was something else. Something that Earth had learned to hide because showing. It made other species uncomfortable. Veth pulled up her communicator again and typed a message to Coalition High Command. The humans sent us one of their apex specimens. Recommend immediate reassessment of species classification. This was not a garden worlder. This was something else entirely. She looked down at the arena one more time. The other candidates were staring at Sarah with new expressions: fear, confusion, wonder. The universe had just gotten a lot more complicated. The medical bay was quiet. Most candidates had minor injuries from their assessments. Bruises, scrapes, nothing serious. The doctors patched them up quickly and sent them away. Sarah sat on a table in the corner, while a medical drone worked on her hands. The cuts were deep. They would leave scars. More scars to add to the collection she already carried. "The regeneration gel will seal the wounds," the drone said in its mechanical voice. "However, there may be some nerve damage. You should have let go of the blade." "I know," Sarah said. She watched the drone wrap her hands in thin white bandages. "But I needed to make a point." "What point required permanent damage to your grip?" Sarah smiled slightly. "That I would not let go, no matter what." The drone did not understand. It was a machine. It dealt in logic and efficiency. Human stubbornness was beyond its programming. After treatment, Sarah returned to her dormitory. The other candidates were there. They had been talking. The conversation stopped when she entered. Korak stood. The four-armed Deshan looked different now. The mockery was gone from his face. In its place was something closer to respect. Maybe even fear. "Human," he said. "Sarah," she nodded. "Korax. I said you would not last a day. I was wrong." He paused, struggling with the words. His species did not apologize easily. "You have proven yourself. Whatever you are." "I am just a candidate," Sarah said. "Same as you." She walked to her bed and sat down. The others watched her but said nothing. The room felt different now. The easy confidence they had shown yesterday was gone. They had seen what she could do. Late that evening, a message arrived on Sarah's personal device. A summons to Director Veth's office. Private meeting. Immediately. She went. Director Veth's office was on the station's upper levels. A place of quiet and privilege, far from the noise of the training areas. The Meraki woman waited behind a simple desk, her 6 eyes tracking Sarah as she entered. "Please sit," Veth said. Sarah sat. For a moment, neither spoke. Veth studied the human with an intensity that would have made most people uncomfortable. Sarah simply waited. "I have read your file," Veth said finally. "Your real file. The one that Earth's military council did not want anyone to see." Sarah's expression did not change. "And Commander Yoon Sira, 15 years of service in Earth Quiet Division. A unit so classified that most human governments deny it exists. 37 confirmed operations. 0 failures." Veth leaned forward. "You are not a candidate, Commander. You are a weapon." Sarah considered her words carefully. "I was a weapon. I retired. People like you do not retire. They simply wait." This was true. Sarah did not deny it. Veth stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. "I have studied your species since you joined the coalition. At first, I thought humans were a curiosity. Soft creatures from a harsh world who had somehow survived long enough to reach the stars." She turned back to face Sarah. "Then I studied your history. Your wars, your genocides. The things you did to each other before you ever looked up at the sky." Her voice was quiet. "Humans are not soft. You have simply learned to wear softness like armor. You smile so that others will not see your teeth." Sarah met her gaze evenly. "We came to the coalition seeking peace." "That is true. And the Quiet Division? What were they seeking?" "Peace must be protected," Sarah said. "That requires people willing to do difficult things. Things that others cannot or will not do." Veth nodded slowly. She understood. Her own species had similar units, hidden in shadows. Every civilization did. The only difference was that humans had perfected the art of hiding them behind friendly faces. I did not summon you to discuss philosophy, Beth said. She returned to her desk and activated a holographic display. There is a threat, one that concerns you directly. The display showed a network of connections, names, faces, organizations. Web of conspiracy hidden within the coalition. Itself, a faction within our government believes that humanity's growing. Influence must be stopped, Beth explained. They fear that your species will eventually dominate the coalition, that your nature will corrupt our peaceful union. And what do they plan to do about it? They plan to kill you. Sierra absorbed this information without visible reaction. When? During the Crucible, the survival examination next week. You and your cohort will be dropped onto a hostile moon with minimal supplies. The perfect environment for an accident. Beth's voice was grim. They believe that eliminating Earth's first peacekeeper candidate will prove that humanity is not ready, that your species is weak, that you do not belong among us. Who is behind this? I do not know. The conspiracy is well hidden. I have pieces but not the whole picture. Beth looked at her seriously. I am telling you this because I believe the coalition needs humanity. Your species brings something we have lost. Fire, determination, the willingness to fight for what matters. If you die on that moon, it will set back human integration by decades. Sierra stood. Her bandaged hands hung at her sides. Then I will not die. You will be outnumbered, outgunned. You will not know who the attackers are until they strike. I have faced worse odds. Beth studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled, a slight curving of her thin lips. Yes, I believe you have. Sierra turned to leave. At the door, she paused. The director. Why tell me this? Why not simply report the conspiracy to coalition authorities? Because I do not know how deep it goes. I do not know who I can trust. Beth's 6 eyes were steady. But I am betting that I can trust you. Because if there is one thing humans do well, it is survive. That night, Sierra walked the station's outer corridors. The stars wheeled slowly past the viewports. Somewhere out there, people were planning her death. Planning to use her as a symbol of human weakness they did not understand. Humans had clawed their way up from nothing. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, disasters. They had beaten every extinction event their world had thrown at them. Not because they were the strongest, or the fastest, or the smartest, but because they refused to quit. She thought about her cohort. 11 alien warriors who had mocked her just days ago. Now they looked at her with new eyes. They were her responsibility now, whether they knew it or not. And then she thought about the youngest among them. A Miraki named Tessith. Small, nervous, clearly out of her depth. The weakest candidate by every measure. The one most likely to fail the Crucible. Sierra found her sitting alone in an observation lounge, staring out at the void. Tears ran silently down her face. May I join you? Sierra asked. Tessith wiped her face quickly, embarrassed. I am fine. Just thinking. Sierra sat beside her. The Crucible. I am going to fail. Tessith's voice was barely a whisper. Everyone knows it. I am the weakest here. I do not know why they accepted me. Why did you apply? The girl was quiet for a moment. My family has served the coalition for 12 generations. Every one of them has worn the peacekeeper uniform. If I fail... She could not finish the sentence. Sierra nodded slowly. She understood family legacies. The weight of expectations. The fear of being the one who breaks the chain. Listen to me, she said gently. When the Crucible begins, stay close to me. Do what I tell you, and I promise you something. Tessith looked at her. Hope and doubt warred in her young eyes. What? Sira placed a bandaged hand on the girl's shoulder. I will bring you home. Whatever it takes. It was not a casual promise. Sira did not make those. It was an oath. The kind she had made before, in darker places, to people who depended on her. Tessa stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, I trust you. Outside the viewport, the stars continued their endless dance. Somewhere among them, enemies were gathering. Plans were being made. Death was being arranged. They thought they were hunting a human. They had no idea what was coming for them. The jungle moon had no name. Just a designation, KV-7, a hostile world of dense vegetation, poisonous air pockets, and predators that had evolved to kill efficiently. The coalition used it for one purpose only, to break the weak and forge the strong. The dropship descended through thick clouds. Inside, Cohort 17 prepared for the 7-day survival examination. Each candidate wore light armor and carried minimal supplies. A knife, a water purifier, emergency rations for 3 days. Nothing more. Sira sat near the back, her eyes closed. Her hands had healed enough to grip. The scars were still fresh, pink lines across her palms. She flexed her fingers slowly, testing the range. Beside her, Tessith trembled slightly. The young Miraki was terrified. She tried to hide it, but Sira could see the signs. Rapid breathing, pale skin, eyes that darted nervously. Stay calm, Sira said quietly. Fear is useful. It keeps you alert, but do not let it control you. Tessith nodded quickly. I will try. The dropship touched down in a small clearing. The doors opened, and humid air rushed in. The smell of decay and growth mixed together. Life and death in equal measure. Corax took command immediately. As the strongest candidate, leadership was expected of him. We move north, he announced. The extraction point is 70 kilometers away. We have 7 days. If we maintain good pace, we can reach it in 5 and rest for 2. No one argued. They moved out in formation, Corax at the front. Others spread in a protective pattern. Sira positioned herself near the rear, close to Tess. The first day passed without incident. The jungle was difficult, but not impossible. They encountered dangerous wildlife twice. Both times, the cohort worked together to drive off the threats without casualties. On the second day, the terrain grew worse. Rivers blocked their path. Cliffs forced them to detour. Progress slowed. Sira noticed things the others missed. Broken branches that should not have been broken. Footprints that did not belong to any native species. They were being followed, watched, but she said nothing. Not yet. On the third day, she pulled Corax aside during a rest stop. We are not alone out here, she said. The Theshan's forearms crossed defensively. Explain. Someone has been tracking us since day 1. Professional. Careful. They are staying just outside our detection range. How do you know this? Because I have done the same thing. Many times. Corax studied her face. He had learned to respect the human over the past days. She did not speak without reason. What do we do? Keep moving. Act normal. When they attack, and they will attack, get the others to cover. I will handle the rest. You cannot fight an unknown enemy alone. Sira's eyes were cold, flat, the eyes of someone who had seen things most beings could not imagine. I have done it before. Day 4, midday. The sun burned through gaps in the canopy. The cohort was crossing a shallow valley when everything changed. The first blast came from nowhere. A beam of concentrated energy that struck the ground near Corax. He dove aside, shouting warnings. More blasts followed, coming from multiple directions. 3 candidates fell in the first 5 seconds. Not dead, but wounded. Unable to move. Ambush. Korax roared. Defensive positions. But there were no defensive positions. They were in the open, exposed, exactly where the attackers wanted them. Sierra moved. Not for cover. Toward the enemy. She had calculated their positions from the angle of the blasts. 3 shooters on the left ridge, 2 on the right. More circling behind. 12 total. Maybe more. Professional killers using military-grade weapons. The first shooter never saw her coming. One moment he was aiming at the panicking candidates below. The next, a hand clamped over his mouth and something hit the back of his neck. He went limp, unconscious. Sierra took his weapon. Not to use it. To understand it. Coalition military issue. Stolen or purchased from corrupt suppliers. This was not a random attack. This was assassination. She moved through the jungle like a ghost. Earth's Quiet Division had trained her in environments far worse than this. Urban warfare. Arctic survival. Desert operations. The jungle was just another hunting ground. The second shooter died to a chokehold. Not permanently. Just enough to put him down for hours. The third heard something behind him and turned. He saw nothing. Then the ground hit him in the face. On the other side of the valley, the remaining attackers were getting nervous. Their communicators had gone silent. 3 of their team had simply vanished. What is happening? One demanded into his radio. Report. No answer came. Sarah appeared behind him like a nightmare. Her hand caught his wrist before he could raise his weapon. Her knee found his stomach. Her elbow found his temple. 3 seconds. He was down. The survivors panicked. They abandoned their positions, trying to regroup, trying to understand what was hunting them. They were trained killers, veterans of a dozen black operations. They had never faced anything like this. Sierra dismantled them one by one. No weapons. Just her hands, her training, and a cold fury that burned beneath her calm surface. These people had tried to kill her cohort. Her people. The one she had promised to protect. That was unforgivable. The last 3 attackers made a final stand. They formed a circle, weapons pointed outward, covering all angles. Their leader shouted into the jungle, "Show yourself. Face us." Sierra stepped out of the shadows. Blood ran from a cut on her forehead. Her arms were bruised. Her breathing was heavy. But she was standing, and they were running out of allies. "Drop your weapons," she said calmly. "You are one person." Yes, they opened fire. All 3 at once. Beams of energy that should have torn her apart. She was already moving, rolling under the first blast, twisting past the second, closing the distance before they could adjust. Her hand found the leader's weapon and twisted it away. Her foot swept his legs. Her fist ended the fight. The other 2 ran. They made it about 10 meters before she caught them. When coalition rescue teams arrived 6 hours later, they found Sarah standing in the middle of the valley. Around her lay 12 unconscious bodies, tied and secured. Behind her, the surviving candidates huddled together, staring at the human woman who had saved them. Tessith was among them, shaking, crying, but alive. "Commander Yoon," the rescue leader said. He was a Vorn officer, similar to Master Torek. His eyes scanned the scene with professional assessment. "Report. 12 hostile combatants," Sierra said. "Coalition military weapons. Coordinated assault. They targeted the cohort specifically." She paused. "I want to know who sent them." The officer looked at the pile of unconscious attackers, then at the small human woman covered in blood and bruises. "You did this alone?" "The cohort was my responsibility." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he activated his communicator. "Command, this is Rescue 7. We have a situation. The Crucible was compromised." "Repeat, the Crucible was compromised." And the human candidate? I think you need to see this for yourselves. Sira walked over to Tessith. The young Meraki looked up at her with wide, grateful eyes. You saved us, Tessith whispered. You saved all of us. Sira knelt beside her. Her voice was gentle, tired. I made you a promise. I keep my promises. Somewhere in the galaxy, the conspirators would learn what had happened. They would learn that their assassins had failed, that their plan had been destroyed by a single human woman, and they would realize, perhaps too late, that they had made a terrible mistake. They had drawn humanity's attention. 3 months had passed since the attack on the jungle moon. The investigation had uncovered pieces of the conspiracy. The captured attackers revealed their employer was a coalition senator named Vorath. He had feared humanity's growing influence and had decided to eliminate it before it grew too strong. But when coalition officers arrived at his residence to arrest him, they found only a body. Someone had silenced him before he could talk. The conspiracy ran deeper than anyone had imagined. Vorath was just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The investigation continued in secret. Director Veth had promised Sarah that she would find the truth, no matter how long it took. Meanwhile, life at the academy returned to something like normal. Cohort 17 had completed their training. Despite everything that had happened, all 7 surviving candidates qualified for peacekeeper service. The attack had forged them together in ways that normal training never could. They had faced death and come through it as a unit. Tessith had changed the most. The frightened girl who had cried in the observation lounge was gone. In her place stood a young woman with quiet confidence. She would never be the strongest warrior or the fastest fighter, but she had found something more valuable. She had found her courage, and she had found it because someone had believed in her when she could not believe in herself. The graduation ceremony was held in the central arena, the same arena where Syra had caught Master Torik's blade, the same sand where she had bled and refused to fall. Candidates from across the station had gathered to witness the ceremony. So had instructors, officers, and dignitaries. This year's graduation was special. This year, a human would receive the Peacekeeper Seal, the first human in Coalition. History. Sira stood with her cohort as the ceremony began. She wore the formal uniform of a graduating candidate. Simple, dark, unremarkable. She looked like everyone else in the line, but no one mistook her for everyone else. Not anymore. One by one, the candidates received their seals. When Tessith's name was called, the young Meraki walked forward with her head held high. The instructor who presented her seal smiled with genuine warmth. Peacekeeper Tessith, the Coalition is honored by your service. Tessith returned to the line with tears in her eyes. Happy tears. The tears of someone who had achieved something they thought impossible. Finally, Sarah's name was called. She walked to the center of the arena. The crowd fell silent. Thousands of eyes watched her. Alien eyes that had once looked at humanity with contempt or pity or indifference. Now they looked with something else. Respect. Master Torik stepped forward. The ancient Vorn warrior who had never lost a fight until he met a human woman, who would not let go of his blade. He carried a ceremonial sword, a weapon given only to those who had demonstrated exceptional courage and skill. It was not a reward. It was a responsibility. Commander Yunsera, Torik said. His voice echoed across the silent arena. You came to this academy as an unknown, a candidate from a young species that few took seriously. He paused, looking at her with his deep, ancient eyes. You have taught us many things. You have shown us that strength is not always visible, that the most dangerous creatures are often the ones who choose to be gentle, that sometimes the smallest warrior has the largest heart. He extended the sword toward her. The Coalition offers you this blade and invites you to join the Peacekeeper ranks. Will you accept? Sira took the sword. She held it carefully, feeling its weight. A weapon capable of ending lives. A tool of war given to a warrior. She set it aside. The crowd murmured in confusion. Torik's eyes narrowed. "I accept the honor," Sira said. "But I hope I never need to use it." She looked out at the gathered crowd. At the aliens who had become her colleagues. Her students. Her family. "I did not come here to fight. I came here because peace requires protection. Because someone must stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. But the goal was never violence. The goal was to make violence unnecessary." She picked up the sword again. "I will carry this blade. I will train with it. I will be ready to use it if there is no other choice. But I pray that day never comes." Torik stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. A genuine smile that transformed his fearsome face. "You are wiser than you look, Commander. I hear that often." The ceremony concluded with an announcement that stunned everyone present. Sira had been offered a teaching position at the Academy, the first human instructor in its history. She had accepted. Later that evening, Sira stood in the training arena. Empty now, silent. The sand had been raked clean, erasing all trace of what had happened here months ago. She heard footsteps behind her. Tessith approached, still wearing her new peacekeeper uniform. "You knew, did you not?" Tessith asked. "During the Crucible. You knew the attack was coming." Sira nodded. "I suspected. And you stayed with us anyway. You could have escaped. Saved yourself. No." Sira's voice was gentle but firm. "I could not. You were my responsibility. All of you." Tessith was quiet for a moment. "Why? We were strangers. Some of us had mocked you. Why risk your life for us?" Sira turned to face her. The young Miraki who had been so afraid was now a peacekeeper. A protector. Something had changed in her, and Sira was proud of what she saw. "Because that is what humans do," Sira said. "We protect. We endure. We survive, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who cannot survive alone." The arena's scanner flickered to life, its ancient systems activating as they detected Sira's presence. Red warning lights began to flash. The familiar message appeared on the display. Threat assessment. "Do not engage." Tess looked at the screen, then back at Sira. "The scanner still warns against you. It measures threat. It sees what I am capable of." Sira smiled slightly. "But capability is not purpose. I could harm. I choose to protect. That is the difference." The next morning, Sira taught her first class. A new cohort of nervous candidates from across the coalition. They had heard the stories. They knew who she was. They were terrified. She stood before them in simple training clothes. Her hands, still scarred, were folded behind her back. The arena scanner flashed its warning, as always. "I am Commander Yoon Sira," she said. "I am human. I came from a harsh world where survival required us to be strong, fast, and clever. My species has a violent history. We have done terrible things to each other and to our planet." She paused, letting the words settle. "But we also learned something important. We learned that true strength is not about destruction. True strength is about protection. About standing between the weak and the strong. About choosing mercy when revenge would be easier." She began to walk among the candidates. They watched her with wide eyes, scared, uncertain, exactly as she had once been long ago. "I will not teach you to be killers. The galaxy has enough of those. I will teach you to be guardians, to be shields, to be the ones who run toward danger so others can run away." She stopped at the center of the arena. The scanner pulsed red above her. "This machine says I am dangerous. It is correct. But danger is not evil. Fire can burn or warm. Water can drown or nourish. What matters is how you use what you have. She looked at each candidate in turn. Young faces. Hopeful faces. Faces that would one day stand between innocence and those who meant them harm. Today, I will teach you what is worth protecting. Tomorrow, I will teach you how. In the back row, a group of new human candidates listened with pride. They had heard stories about Sarah from other species. Whispered tales of the woman who caught a blade bare-handed. The human who defeated a master warrior with nothing but her hands. One of them leaned over to a Miraki candidate beside her. What is she really like? The Miraki thought for a moment. She had not met Commander Sarah personally, but she had heard stories from her older sister. A young peacekeeper named Tessith, who spoke of the human woman with something close to reverence. The scanner saw a predator, she said finally. But my sister saw something else. She saw someone who would bleed for strangers. Someone who kept promises. Someone who taught her that courage is not about being fearless. It is about being afraid and choosing to act anyway. She smiled. That is what humanity brought to the stars. Outside the arena, the galaxy continued to turn. The conspiracy that had tried to kill Sarah still lurked in the shadows. Enemies still watched and waited. The future remained uncertain, but somewhere in the darkness, those enemies looked at the reports from the Academy. They saw what one human had done. They saw what humanity was capable of, and they wondered if they had made a terrible mistake.